Friday Night Lights were back on in Davidson Field. The Sea Kings hosted the Oilers. Corona Del Mar prevailed 35-8 to move to 6-1 on the season, and the Oilers drop to 4-3. Howard, we asked Coach O'Shea after the Sea Kings lost to Los Al a couple of weeks ago, what was the number one thing that Corona Del Mar needed to work on to rebound from that? And he said, controlling the line of scrimmage, owning the line of scrimmage. And talking to Coach O'Shea after the win on Friday against the Oilers, he said he was really proud of the Sea Kings' defensive line play.
Certainly on the line of scrimmage defensively, I thought it was one of the single more dominant performances we had due to kicking game or a turnover, whatever. They had the ball 4 times inside the 20, and ended up going in negative each of those drives.
Well, I agree with Coach O'Shea. The defensive line and the linebackers, that front 7 in general, absolutely dominated the game for CDM and controlled the game in general. We had only 12 to 15 rushing yards for Huntington Beach. I mean, very, very low numbers in rushing yards, not a lot of attempts, so they were a little bit discouraged from running the ball. Charlie Mannon had 3 sacks. The defensive line, the blitzing linebackers, they were in the backfield getting pressure on A.J. Perez and just absolutely disrupting everything that Huntington Beach wanted to do. So you've got to give credit to the defense. And like every week we always say with CDM, the defense tends to lead to offense. Defense gets takeaways, they get quick 3 and outs, and then David Razor, these receivers, this dynamic offense, Evan Sanders at running back, they just get going. And once they get going, it's hard to shut the water off on them. It just, when it rains, it pours. We saw 4 touchdowns, 28 points in the second quarter by CDM. They went into halftime up 28, and at that point, it's pretty much domination. So they were too much for Huntington Beach once they were able to get going, and that was started by the defensive line and the linebackers shutting everything down up front.
Well, speaking of the Corona Del Mar offense, our reporter Eric Ramos talked to CDM junior quarterback David Razor after the game about the Sea Kings' big second quarter offensive explosion.
We came out a little flat in the beginning, but we fixed it. Going in the second quarter with 3 big touchdowns was big for us, and I don't know, man. We trust our offense and trust our offensive coordinator, and it's big time.
Now, as much as we're on here, Howard, singing the praises of the CDM offense, rightfully so, Coach Brett Brown of the Huntington Beach Oilers, he lamented the Oilers' bad red zone offense in the second quarter. And going into halftime, that's a game that could have been 7-0 CDM or maybe 14-0 CDM. It ends up being 28-0. And Coach Brown, he pointed the finger at the Oilers' red zone offense for being the source of those troubles.
There are a couple stretches during the game that really hurt us, and some missed opportunities. I believe we were in the red zone 5 times and only scored once, so we had a couple turnovers on downs too.
Well, it's frustrating when you're struggling, when you're getting a lot of pressure on your quarterback, when you're not finding anything in the run game, but you actually finally get down within striking distance, within the red zone, and you're not able to connect with your receivers, you're not able to make the offense click. It's frustrating, and these are just missed opportunities. But, there were, like always, there's always going to be bright spots. And Hideo Ray for Huntington Beach is somebody that I have to shout out. He had a big night. He had, I think, a 55-yard catch. He was over 100 yards. He's a guy that we know anytime he's on the field, no matter who they're playing, he's a threat. He's probably going to find a way to get his numbers and be productive for his team. So credit to Hideo Ray for having a big night.
Well, when we talked to him at 7-on-7 this summer, he told us to call him Mr. Reliable, or maybe you asked him if we could call him Mr. Reliable, and that's what he's been for HB this season. So we'll do it on our preview show.
I was going to say, I don't think Hideo volunteered that information that we can call him Mr. Reliable. We know he's a man of few words, but he did co-sign that he's he got ice water in his veins. He shows up for the big moments.
Well, a big moment is going to be this next Friday back in Davidson Field. We'll talk about it on our preview show, but Huntington Beach and Newport Harbor going head-to-head on Friday. That's going to be a huge game for both teams, so we won't get into that right now, but I know we're both looking forward to that one.
Yep, can't wait to preview it in a few days on the preview show.